And huge thanks, first and most of all, to the Moana Blue Pacific Pavilion for hosting us here today. My name is Vlad Arnodov, and I'm from the Adaptation Fund. I'm the Secretariat Coordinator of the Technical Evaluation Reference Group. So I'll explain in a bit what exactly that means. But prior to that, I just want to give you a brief overview of the event today and what we are going to talk about. So this event is about readiness and the Adaptation Fund readiness and the lessons from the Pacific. Now, it's important when we talk about readiness to understand readiness for what. And the original idea of the Adaptation Fund Readiness Program and readiness programs in general is to support countries build capacity to access climate finance, which is so much needed. So it's not only about having the money ready, but also helping countries to be able to use this money. So this is the main goal of the readiness program. The Adaptation Fund has been providing readiness support to countries since its operationalization back in 2010. And from 2014, there has been actually a formal readiness program that has been operating. So it's almost 10 years now, and it's a pivotal point when we have to basically see what has worked well and what has not worked well. So today, I'll take you briefly through the readiness program, and after that, I'll invite our panelists to the stage to share their perspectives of the readiness program from a country point of view, also from an implementing entity point of view. After that, a representative from the Adaptation Fund Board Secretariat will talk about the proposed changes to the readiness program. And then we are going to be conducting in the next few months also an evaluation of the readiness program. So the lead consultant for that evaluation will also talk a bit what we are going to do as part of the evaluation, which aspects we are going to analyze. So I think it will be the event today we envisage as a platform, as a dialogue where we can exchange views so that we can make an even better readiness programs that can serve the partners of the Adaptation Fund and strengthen that partnership as we move forward. Now, who are we in the Adaptation Funds? So for those of you who don't know us, we are an innovative financing mechanism that was originally established under the Kyoto Protocol using the share of proceeds of carbon credits to support most vulnerable countries and communities to adapt to the effects of climate change. The fund is now serving the Paris Agreement, and it has close to 170 projects already implemented across the world, including in a number of countries in the Pacific. So we are very closely working with all of you. And the fund, as all other climate funds, also has its own independent evaluation group. And this is the technical evaluation reference group of the fund. I'm the secretariat coordinator of this group, and we work with an advisory panel of 5 very senior evaluators who, on behalf of the board, design and commission evaluations. So this time, the evaluation that we are going to conduct is also part of our work as a technical evaluation reference group. So with this introduction, I will get you briefly through the readiness program of the Adaptation Fund, what exactly we do there, and probably that will provide a good background before we move into the presentations today. Okay, so I can. So the adaptation, so the readiness program of the fund. Yeah. Oh, okay, thank you. So what is the readiness program of the fund? As I said, it covers various forms of support to countries and to entities to be able to build the necessary capacity to be ready to access climate finance. So it has 4 key components: support to countries seeking accreditation. The Adaptation Fund business model is a model where funding is provided through accredited organizations, which we call implementing entities. And each country can have up to 2 national implementing entities. We also work with regional and international entities, but the fund helps national entities and recently also other entities gain accreditation. So that support is provided through the readiness program. We also provide support to accredited IEs for project formulation and also through other grants for technical assistance. There is cooperation and partnerships with climate finance readiness providers and also knowledge management. So all these 4 functions or pillars constitute our readiness program. So what exactly is included there? Let me start from the beginning of the cycle. So this is the first main pillar is the readiness package grants. So these are special grants that are provided to help entities gain accreditation with the fund. And at the moment, the support is up to $150,000 US dollars per NIE. But this, as I understand from my colleagues, is going to be open also to regional implementing entities and international entities as we move forward. What are the activities that are eligible for FundRIC? It's an in-country support, also technical support for experts to develop and put in place the practices and procedures and other elements for accreditation, organization of local, national, and regional consultations, and follow-up consultations. Another part, once you gain accreditation, is the project formulation grants. And since B42, this has been open to all of our implementing entities. So the project formulation grants, they support project formulation activities, including feasibility studies and consultation. They are available to all IEs, as I said, and the amount depends on the size of the project. I was actually tempted to put a very complicated table on the screen, but this is available on our website as well. Just to let you know that for the largest projects, support can reach up to $250,000 US dollars. So these are like regional, multi-country projects. So this is something that we also provide in order to help countries access funding from the Adaptation Fund. And one of the conditions at the moment is that this request for project formulation support is provided together with the project pre-concept or project concept that is eventually brought to the board and approved. In addition to that, we also have technical assistance grants. I won't go into many details, but there is a grant for the environmental and social policy and gender policy that is available to NIEs. And also there is a technical assistance grant that is only for gender policy support. So basically, we are helping our implementing entities meet the conditions of these new policies when they design and implement projects. There is also a very interesting new package, which is the scale-up grants. And the goal of that is to increase the impact of projects and amplify project and program results, and also support tested and adaptation solutions and scale them up across the country, maybe across the region. So that grant is up to $100,000 per project or program. And moving forward. So in addition to the grant support that we provide, in the readiness program, there are also non-grant support that is available. So there are annual NIE seminars for accredited NIEs. There are regional workshops. We also have readiness webinars that are available, I would say, every 1.5 to 2 months. So if you're interested, especially for the readiness webinars, just subscribe to our mailing list and you're going to receive information on those as well. And there are a lot of knowledge products that the fund is preparing also as part of its readiness support. We also conduct South-South country exchange visits, which support knowledge sharing among countries. And we also have a community of practice for direct access entities. And this is something where national implementing entities really can learn from each other and how they can better access climate finance, see what difficulties they have faced and how some of the entities have overcome those and how this knowledge can be applied in the context of other entities. So this is very briefly um, what our readiness program looks like. As I said, it has been around for 10 years now. So in the event today, I want to hear, or we all hear the perspectives on the readiness program. And also one important thing is also the expectations, what exactly we would like to see as the readiness program evolves from now. So without any further ado, I would like to invite to the stage our panel today. So we have 4 panelists, so I'll go in order. So first, I want to invite Mr. Sione Tokai. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. So Mr. Tokai, he's acting CEO, acting deputy CEO for the Ministry of Finance of Tonga. And after that, I want to invite Ms. Tagaloa Cooper. And I'm really grateful to Tagaloa for joining us today because she was actually not feeling very well. But thank you for joining us. Tagaloa is the director for climate in SPREP and one of the most knowledgeable people of in the climate field area in the Pacific, and somebody we have been working with for many years. Thank you, Tagaloa, for joining us. Next, I want to invite Ms. Silvia Mancini, my colleague from the Adaptation Fund. She is the lead for countries and partnerships in the Adaptation Fund Board Secretary. So she'll be your contact person in many cases when you talk about readiness support or think about partnerships. And last but not least, I want to invite Ms. Catherine Cook from Oxford Policy Development. She is going to be the lead of the readiness evaluation and that we are just about to start conducting. And she will talk briefly towards the end of the panel about how the evaluation is planned to be introduced. As I said, the event today is planned to be really a platform or a dialogue for all of us to learn from each other about what worked well, what didn't work well for the readiness program, and how we want to move it forward. So I want to start this panel discussion with one question that I'll pose both to Sione and to Tagaloa in order about their experience with the readiness program, what has worked well up to now, and most importantly, where exactly do you see areas for strengthening the program? Because the readiness program, as our board has also reiterated a number of times, is needs-driven and country-driven. So what are actually those needs that we as an adaptation fund must answer better as we move forward? So Sione, can you give us the perspective of Tonga on this? Thank you.
Thank you, Vlad. And firstly, I'm privileged to be part of this panel. And just to answer the question, I'm bringing the context of Tonga. We have been engaging readiness programs with GCF, but we are looking forward to exploring more on adaptation, the Adaptation Fund. But I believe that we have the similar experience we have on the GCF. We would want to learn that if we are going to go through with the Adaptation Fund, and that's what I would like to share today. Let me just start by highlighting that readiness programs are very much important in the context of Tonga by ensuring that our national capacity and are strengthened towards accessibility to climate finance. However, we still need to improve on our collective cooperation. And I'd like to highlight a couple of points here. Firstly is the developing of projects and technical assistance. Learning from the current readiness programs we have on the ground, the responsive deployment of technical assistance for feasibility studies and process to develop proposals, robust proposals, and collecting the data, which we we would like to also look at the regional side of consolidating this, our crop agencies, SPREP, to help support us in doing this. So that's one of the key gaps that we see in our current readiness programs. Second to that is the capacity constraint. We have been facing slow preparations of our readiness programs with GCF, and these come in various areas. Firstly, is the human resource turnover. A lot of our focus is to use our own local experts. But that comes into a lot of competition in the employment area, where once we have them into the readiness program, then they find another, another program that's better, and then they'll leave, and the program is left incomplete. So how do we look at doing that? Is making it more attractive. How can the readiness program become very attractive to our local consultants? Maybe scaling up of these programs. Another point to that is we're looking at our readiness programs, not just focusing on the government, but as a whole nationwide approach, so that we have readiness programs implemented for non-government agencies, our CSOs, our academics. It's not just looking at the government's ability, but within the whole context, because that's our whole objective for having the readiness program. Another important point that we've learned in our in Tonga is the sustainability of the readiness programs. It is vital that the readiness programs must be sustained. That means soft landing of these programs. We usually come short of some of our programs, where once we complete, then they don't know what's going on in the next phase and how to carry on from that, and how government will take up that responsibility. So that's one of the key things that we can look at the readiness programs, is to ensure there's soft landing of our readiness programs and they're sustainable. I'd like to touch on accessibility. Learning from the current case of Tonga, we are faced with different expectations. So when we are preparing our proposals for submissions, our preparation, a lot of effort to those commitments, but when it turns out to what we are having, it seems different. Like we're understanding that we're putting all that effort, and then we have a little bit of resources to implement those programs. So that's one of the needs for our accessibility. And just also on the timeframes, learning from this current process, it takes a lot of time to go through when we're putting in our proposal. It takes at least 2 years until we get that funding. But by then, we're done with that. We know we've gone past. Perhaps a lot of losses come along during that time lapse. And then just on the accreditation part, it needs to be simplified. We've been facing at the moment of trying to complete things that already exist in our current context. We have policies in place, but we need that to be changed so that it meets the criteria. So those are one of the things that we, as our country, needs to be revised accordingly, meeting our needs and our context in the readiness program. So we look forward to working closely with the Adaptation Fund of carrying this forward, and yeah, I think that's from my side. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sione, for providing the country perspective, the perspective of Tonga. And you talk about accessibility, you talk about timelines, you talk about resources. And these are some very important points that all of us should keep in mind, especially on the Adaptation Fund side, when we are thinking about upgrading our program and making it more user-friendly and responding to the country needs. So thank you. Thank you for this perspective. So now I want to move to Tagalog and hear the perspective of SPREP. SPREP, as some of you know, is a regional implementing entity of the Adaptation Fund. And recently, based on guidance to the board, some of the Adaptation Fund instruments are becoming available also to regional implementing entities. And we have guidance also from the board, which was very clear. One, with enhancing the readiness program as we move forward, we need to think also about the way new instruments or modalities should be provided so that can also integrate the work of regional implementing entities. So it will be very interesting to hear also the perspective of SPREP and how SPREP sees the Adaptation Fund readiness program. And again, where can we do better? What can we improve? Tagaloa, over to you.
Thank you very much, Vlad. And thank you for the privilege of being on this panel. I want to start by saying that when there is readiness, a support to regional organizations, that is support to our Pacific countries. It's one and the same. That said, we still like to see readiness support directly to our countries. So we will endeavor to assist our countries to gain that support. And that said, as an intergovernmental organization, we respond to country requests. Our response to countries, the ability to respond appropriately and at the level our countries need that support is getting more and more difficult. And so to put it simply, we are unable at the moment to meet the needs of our countries. So that's the first thing. And to support that, readiness for entities would help supplement our capacity so that it frees up resources to do the core work of SPREP that answers to and delivers to our countries, but at the same time, that supplementary readiness support would help us to deliver directly to the countries. Now, so what have we done to go towards how we would do that, how we would deliver on that? We've embarked on a partnership with the Rocky Mountain Institute based on the learnings from the 5 Cs, from the Caribbean Climate Change Center, on how they've developed a pool of project developers that supports countries. And so we want to replicate this, and we have the support of our countries to do this. We've had the support in the event that we held with Rocky Mountain Institute of the government of Tonga and of the government of Samoa. And I know other governments will come on board because the reality is on the ground in our countries, it's difficult for countries, especially small countries, to access finance for their projects. One thing that SPREP does have that supports a development hub, project development hub like this is what we call the Tomai Pacific. It is a roster of experts, of Pacific experts, and it is hosted, SPREP, excuse me, and it is a roster of now over 170 experts. On the first day of the COP, I met a very nice lady who was from a country outside of the Pacific, who was telling me about how their company helps countries to access climate finance. And I thought, that's really good. But we want the expertise to remain in our region. We want the support to support our roster of our experts who know our context, who know the Pacific, who know how to deal with the uniqueness of Pacific Island countries, from governments to civil society to private sector. And also, we want to build the capacity of our own people, of our own region. So we look to the Adaptation Fund. We look to the experts in the Adaptation Fund to help us, to help SPREP meet that need. And by supporting a innovative but replicated idea to develop a hub for project developers that can get finance flowing to our countries. Because I come to a COP every year. I listen to my climate change focal points every year, and it's the same frustration. We're simply not getting the funding to flow into countries at the pace and scale it needs to. So this program of the Adaptation Fund will go a long way to supporting countries to do that. And so we really look forward to continuing the conversation. I echo everything that my colleague from Tonga has said, and above all, simplified access and support to SPREP, because when you support SPREP, you support the countries because they are our bosses. We answer to them. So it's very difficult when a country asks me to help them develop a proposal and we don't have the in-house capacity, because when we move someone there, we are not doing what we're the core business that we're supposed to do. So this would help supplement that capacity so that we can deliver what we are meant to deliver to our countries and get projects going on the ground in our countries. Thank you, Vlad.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tagaloa, for this intervention. And you provided a very important perspective of the role of regional entities and how they serve countries and how they support the countries to access finance. I think this is very important also for us. And also the comment on simplification of access is another key part that we'll make sure to take into consideration. So I think with these two comments now, it's an opportunity, or two interventions, it's an opportune moment to give the floor to our third panelist today, and that is Ms. Silvia Mancini from the Adaptation Fund Board Secretariat, and she is the lead for countries and partnerships. And I would invite Silvia to briefly talk about having heard the comments, and also based on a lot of thinking and discussions that have been going on in the Adaptation Fund, what would be the directions for change? How do you imagine the enhancement of the readiness program as we move forward so that it can be more responsive to the needs of the countries and our partners? So Silvia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Vlad. I'm really pleased to be here. Let me tell you how much SEEDS has been in the core, in the heart of the Adaptation Fund. We currently have, let me start from the governing body of the Adaptation Fund. We have a board member from Cook Island and Antigua Barbuda. We have, you mentioned SPREP, you mentioned like SPC. We have 4 regional entities, CDB, 5 Cs, SPREP, SPC. We have accredited Tuvalu, Cook Island, Micronesia. So what I'm trying to say is that our interest in making sure that what was said is actually can really be done is really at the top of our thinking constantly. So what allow me to say that when thinking about the readiness program of the Adaptation Fund, especially for the SEEDS, I always have in mind 2 words which are speed and scale. That's what we need. We really need to make sure that what you were mentioning in terms of the capacity building, in terms of the finance flow, in terms of really making feasibility studies of adaptation that are concrete, that are real, that are helpful. This is really what we want to do with the readiness program, really making sure that you can have what you need in terms of also on the localized aspect. And I really appreciate the word of knowing the context, because there is nobody else more than, for example, regional entities that know the context. So in terms of the grant, the readiness package grant, and I'm happy to say that this is actually open to regional implementing entities, national implementing entities, and multilateral implementing entities already, which means that you can have already any support from our NIEs existing in the Pacific Ocean, as well as from SPREP, as well from SPC, as well, for example, from the Asian Development Bank. This is open, so the way it works is it's a small amount, but it's trying to be, and this goes back into the word that I was trying to use in terms of scalability, even in the readiness, we're really trying to have something that is useful and then can be constantly scaled up. And as you know, we are part more and more of the MCF, so the Multilateral Climate Fund. So the Adaptation Fund is now in, since COP28, there was a joint declaration from the heads of the fund, and we have been working on already on an action plan. And this is something really that is not, that is very concrete and and this is already happening. And what I am, in this, we always try to work on that context of scale up also with other, with the GCF or, with other multilateral climate fund. In terms of the adaptation fund, and just let me stop 1 second for the accreditation element. Readiness is for accreditation. Readiness is for the project formulation, is for project scale up. So, but before, let me just allow for the accreditation. So the Adaptation Fund about 5 years ago, more actually, about 6 years ago, realized that that there was a difference actually between the typology of national implementing entities that need to come for accreditation. And it was at that point that we created a streamlined accreditation process for especially that has been utilized by seeds. And this is Tuvalu, and this is really, it's a process that is as thorough as an accreditation process, but has in mind the flexibility that is absolutely needed in a situation where there is a small scale. So when I talk about small scale, it's less than 25 people in the organization, less than 1 million of revenue, really scale, really small. So then the accreditation and the panel can really assess in a context that is, of course, different from a national implementing entity that operates in a larger context. We also see, for example, that in a small context, and this is for accreditation, we have, for example, the Minister of Finance, instead of having the Minister of Environment or other typology of entities that are chosen at the level of the country. Now, what happened there is that we, as Adaptation Fund, we have been really trying to work with the panel to also see what can you ask from a Minister of Finance in a small seeds compared to other entities in larger context. And these are conversations that have been extremely helped. And I cannot tell you how much they have been helped by having already entities accredited with us, Cook Island, Tuvalu, all of the small, all of the seeds entities that have been accredited with us, so then we can learn also from their experience with the accreditation process and make it really advance in the thinking on how to streamline the accreditation process even more. I don't want to, stop here because I really want to stress what Vlad was mentioning at the beginning. The Adaptation Fund is really based on a constant dialogue. And that's what probably even from this event, any type of feedback that we can receive, trust me, we take it on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sylvia, for this. And thank you for providing the perspectives of the funds and talking about the speed and about the accessibility and also giving some concrete examples where the program can be strengthened. So I want to move now to our last panelist today, but not less important, Ms. Catherine Cook. She is going to lead the evaluation of the readiness program. But before I give her the floor, I just want to explain what exactly that means in practical terms. I think some of you maybe imagine that we evaluators, and I say we evaluators because I'm on the evaluation side of the Adaptation Fund, we're kind of policemen who basically come and stop and try to find all the issues. Actually, this is not what evaluation is about. Evaluation is first and most of all about learnings, about generating evidence, and the role of evaluation is based on that evidence to make recommendations, action or recommendations for improve something. So this is actually what we are going to do with our readiness program. So now with that introduction, I think I can give the floor to Catherine. So Catherine, you want to present from there? Okay.
Thanks.
So I just want to ask our IT colleagues to switch to the other presentation, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Vlad. I just thought we'd start with saying, yeah, I appreciate your introduction to evaluation and why it's important. And I know people can see evaluations as rather dry. So I think what I hope to do, can you hear me? What I hope to do is to explain to you why it's important and how it's going to be so important to you as well. We've heard from our colleagues here, from Tonga, from SPREP, and from the Evaluation Fund itself. So, you know, actually, the reason I was taking notes was to make sure that we can put all these into the fund of the evaluation as well. So, what I'll do today is briefly explain a little bit about who we are. We're from Oxford Policy Management, set the context, so what the fund is about, what the evaluation is going to be about, but most importantly, how it's going to be useful to all of you and the people here. Our approach, just to explain about our approach, because we will need this to be a collaborative exercise. So it will be very important to speak to those people, recipients of the Adaptation Fund Readiness Programme and the fund itself, and then how that will work. So just moving on. So who we are, Oxford Policy Management. We have roots in the University of Oxford from 1979, and we are we specialize in the climate, energy, natural disasters, urban policy. But the research, a specialist is in the research and evaluation in policy and informing Mel, equipping us with the ability to develop policy impact and make a real difference to lives. And that's essentially why we exist in Oxford Policy Management. But the key is here, I think, we're not just based in Oxford. We are based all over the world, in the Pacific, in South Asia. My colleague Apar here is based in Nepal and is supporting the Nepal delegation. I'm supporting the Fiji delegation as well here today. Just to explain about some of the deep evaluations that we've done across different funds and different development partners, but really with that sort of exciting ability to have impact and to really make things better. For me, one of the reasons that I'm involved in this, and it's so important to me as well in terms of the Evaluation Fund. Previously, I was based in Fiji, sitting within CCICD at the time, but trying to access finance from the funds like the GCF and the Adaptation Fund, which we were successful at with colleagues here today to access finance for nature-based solutions, sea walls from the Adaptation Fund. But really, you know, with that understanding of how difficult it is, I hear some of the frustrations from Tonga, how difficult some of that access can be in terms of the modalities and the capacity and the cumbersome nature. So I was there as kind of nationally embedded to support the institutional strengthening to access climate finance. So setting the context to the fund, you know, we've heard a fantastic of the evaluation, a fantastic overview of the Readiness Fund from both Vlad and Sylvia, you know, what it's there for and how it's there to try to help countries and support both in the preparation for access, but also the project support and building that institutional capacity. We're also involved in the training for the CPDAE, so helping NIEs to understand and better understand how to access, but also to make sure those projects are kind of implemented effectively as well. So we've talked about the different areas of the Adaptation Fund Readiness Programme, and that's been explained. So really we're trying to, you know, the purpose of this is to use all of you in a participatory way to try to feed in information to improve this, to make it fit for purpose and useful and helpful for those recipients of the Adaptation Fund. So I'll move on. So the scope of the evaluation, what we're going to do is assess the readiness program's evolution and progress from 2014 to today, but focusing on those components 1 to 3 with a concise assessment of the component 4. But understand how it's interactive and learn from the other funds, other climate finance institutions as well, and what its value add is. So, we all know the GCF also has a readiness program. The Adaptation Fund Readiness Programme, understand how it's diverse, what its value add is, and actually how it can be more useful as well. So that's why it's so important that we hear from all of you. It's, Sylvia explained about its regional presence. It's not just there for countries and NIEs, but actually really understanding if there's anything that's missing, what are the gaps and how it can be more useful to meet the needs of those recipients. So also, to provide what we're trying to do is generate strategic evidence and actionable recommendations to inform the board for the midterm strategy for the readiness program. So that's what we're setting out to do in the next few months, weeks and months. So the evaluation itself will be theory-based. What I'll try not to do is get too bogged down in the weeds of the technical components of an evaluation, but really just to say, the reason it's theory-based evaluation approach is it's a theory-based evaluation is used for evaluating complex environments with a theory of change at its heart. So really understanding, what the causal pathways are, setting out with different assumptions, but actually tracking all the actions through the actions and the outcomes through the causal pathways. So therefore, it's kind of provides a kind of a fantastic tool to be able to evaluate complex environments like the Adaptation Fund, which does deal with institutional strengthening and complex kind of political procedures as well. And therefore, this can be applied to be extremely useful. It needs to be participatory, the theory of change. So what is the change that the Adaptation Fund is trying to get? What is the impact and how we can track, what the different actions are to reach that impact. So this is the reason it's going to be a theory-based evaluation. It will be learning orientated. We want to support the fund in explaining, how the readiness program's incorporated learnings. We've heard about how it's constantly changing, it's iterative and adaptive, and tries to include learnings as it goes on. So that continuous improvement. And also that it's utilization focused, so that it will seek to maximize the utilization of the findings. So working collaboratively with the Adaptation Fund, this won't be done in isolation, and the ways to increase the accessibility and the usability of the fund outputs as well. So that's really at the heart of the approach. And then just to let you know, we will be in touch with many of you throughout this process. The phase 1, I won't go into the detail of all of these different phases, but in essence, what I want to let you know is this is happening quite soon. The recommendations to the board will be in April, and over the next few months, we'll be conducting the key informant interviews, the questions. We'd love to talk to all of you, understand what your needs are, the reporting unit phase, and then the analysis, and then we'll provide recommendations to the board. So in essence, this is the final slide, but we want to conduct the evaluation interviews. We'll be getting on with those quite quickly, generate the evidence, have the interviews, and critically we'll work on the landscape analysis. So this is similar to the readiness initiatives, the Adaptation Fund's readiness program. So that is really the unique value add. I'll hand over back to Vlad. Thanks.
Catherine, and you provided a very good overview of the evaluation plan, and I think many of you are going to be contacted as we move forward. And I wanted to also move to a Q&A, but unfortunately our time is almost over. So I think it's just important, first of all, to thank our panelists today for providing very important perspectives on how the readiness program of the Adaptation Fund can be improved, how it has worked up to now, and also see that we are committed to analyzing better and based on a scientific approach the improvement of the program, collecting evidence and moving back to the board in April next year when we have to actually provide our enhanced readiness program and results of the evaluation. So we are here. I think we can continue discussing after this event is over. There is a nice lounge space behind this seat. So thank you once again for joining us today. Thank you for being such a nice audience. Huge round of applause and kudos also to our panelists today for providing us with their important insights. And thank you to the Moana Pacific Blue Pavilion for being our host for this event. Thank you.